Kahuna says, by the way, at the Lord Otter, thanks for helping me with my character sheet the other day. Yeah, I'm probably going to have to be picking your brain for that as well, because I have no idea what I'm doing yet.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a unique system. It's not conventional D&D, so I'm definitely willing to help with that.
And keep in mind, even though I have played D&D, that was back in 93, so that's how long it's been since I played.
Second edition, possibly first.
Well, this is more of a generic rule system, and Billy Bob Sack was... him and I were playtesting how combat goes in it just the other night, and I think he had his own doubts about it, but once we started like getting into the combat, he was like, oh, this is fun. It actually makes more sense than a lot of what D20 systems do. And I was like, yeah, it makes sense once you actually start rolling the dice, and you're like, oh, this feels natural. It's one of those systems, and I've kind of warmed up to it over the years.
That sounds good.
I think I'm sure to provide plenty of comedy as I fumble through not knowing what the hell I'm doing.
Don't worry, I think that's a lot of us when it comes to TTRPGs.
The last D&D-like game I played was Pathfinder and Starfinder, and I think I had a character get up to like second or third level or something where you're supposed to pick a kit or something, and I had no clue that back in second edition D&D, you picked a class. Maybe you were a multi-class, so like a fighter mage or something. But this thing where, well, I want to be a warrior, and then I get up to a certain level, and now I got to pick something else in order to be able to continue my character. I was like, what? But I kind of walked through it with other people in the group, and I was like, this is the kind of the character that I want. So they're like, oh, well, okay, you want to pick this kit, and because you can do this, that, and the other thing. Okay.
It doesn't help that Pathfinder's pretty rules-heavy system at times. There's a lot going on with Pathfinder. It gives them more of a chance to balance the system, but there's a lot more to keep track of anyway.
Yeah, back then when I was gaming, my friend Bruce, who was game master for all this, it was mostly Dungeons and Dragons, but he had Danger International. He had, was it Rifts? I don't know. He had a few. He had another Space Age one going. But the thing is, he had all this data written down, conversions for character sheets, how to take a character and convert it from one system over to the other, because he didn't use modules. He built out his own worlds, and it turned out that the cool thing was there was this elf in the D&D world named Cap, and he was called a desert elf, and he said they're pretty much tall. They're all about 6 feet tall, but and it's typical elf features, but they had dark skin and blonde hair. He says they all look like California surfer dude elves. And but the thing is, if you keep playing with him and then you start playing one of his other games, his space game, you meet a man with pointed ears, dark skin, blonde hair, 6 feet tall, named Cap. It's the same character. He's not actually an elf. He's an alien, and you don't know it in his other game. So he had all his games, all the continuities interconnected right down to frickin' currencies. The guy was a genius. I mean, the dude builds worlds is what he does.
The first one sounds like Athos. Let's see, what was it? Dark Sun.
It's also a ton of work.
Yeah, well, he had been building it bit by bit over like 20-something years of gaming.
Oh, that explains it.
Yeah, but he's very good game master. It's like whenever we got together, we wanted him to DM. But he, bit by bit, year after year, he had added more lore, more interconnectivity. And when you step back and look at all his continuity, it was like, holy crap. He built a freaking universe just to play.
That's part of the fun of game mastering, though. Uh, a lot of One of the most fun ways to DM a game is to, I mean, you're at least at first you're not going to know every little detail about whatever setting or world you have, but at the very least you have an outline. You know what's going on there, what's most important to everyone living in that world. And you'll usually have like an outline of like what places there are, what's going on there, and then on a smaller scale, what quests there are, what problems everyone's having. And having all of that knowledge while players are kind of like going bit by bit, trying to solve problem after another,
Mm-hmm.
an unexpected choice or decision comes along the way, and then you kind of put two and two together. You're like, hey, wait on a second. This way over here actually affects that. So it's going to have a unique effect that I didn't think of. And that whole paradigm just kind of shifts, and it makes the game so much more fun.
Yeah, he even had things figured out for like if he took one character out of a game and put him into another, he had to figure out the scaling as well. For example, his D&D world took place on a rocky planet the size of Jupiter. So he was like, okay, if I take a character out of that and put them in Danger International on Earth, how strong are they compared to everybody else? Because they've been in much higher gravity their whole lives. And I mean, for each world he knew how many G's it was to be on the planet, how much stronger or weaker the species on that planet would be compared to peoples from other planets.
Good
And he
grief.
got real detailed. The funny thing was his dwarf. A dwarf got knocked out through some kind of dimensional rift and disappeared from his D&D game, and then you later found him in Danger International. Everybody thought he was just a midget, but no, he was actually a dwarf who clean shaved to blend in. He's been around since the Civil War, and he was a weaponsmith, so he was building guns. And only a few people knew who he actually was, and because he came from that other world, he was much stronger than he looks like he should have been.
Wow.
I got to contact this guy and get him in here because his imagination is pretty cool.
What it vaguely reminds me of is something like the Eternal Champion multiverse, where in each version of what Michael Moorcock made up, there's different versions of characters and they can cross different planes of existence, basically just cross over into his other books. Uh, I know it's not one to one, but that's the first thing that comes to my mind whenever you start talking about interconnected settings like that, where it crosses genre very easily.
Yeah, but I mean, it
Good.
was just amazing how he left no detail unturned. The conversions and everything. He had just notebooks and notebooks of like how to adapt and the rule changes to make sure everything stayed consistent to how he developed it. And at one point, we were actually playing a game and writing down everything that happened because the plan was we were going to make a novel out of this adventure. And unfortunately, life happened, jobs, separate ways, all that.
Kahuna asked a funny question. How hard is it to keep a game on the rails as a DM?
That I cannot answer. I've never DM'd.
Um, I've seen some stay on the rails quite easily just because the players kind of wanted to go down whatever route the DM was going. And then I've seen other games where uh, just so as one really hilarious example was a bunch of guys sat down at the table and they all had their characters and there was a lady that was doing the session. It was one of the sessions that they did at one of the conferences, right? And so she had it all figured out that what all they were going to do and stuff. And the guys were all playing female characters, and the first thing that they wanted to do was go shopping, and they wasted the entire session going shopping.
That's
funny.
actually a fairly common problem in just about any RPG session. If the players are in a town, the possibility is quite high that they may spend the better part of that session shopping for better stuff.
Yeah, well, the whole point was they were joking with her and giving her a bad time because they were specifically trying to go through and do a game shopping session rather than at the end, go, okay, we're going to buy this or that, or like quickly go through stuff. They wanted to role play out the whole entire shopping session. And she kept trying to get them back to let's get back off to the dungeon and do things. And no, they wanted to get their nails done. They wanted to buy a purse, just crazy stuff.
That actually sounds like a really fun session.
I don't remember if it was an article I read or a video I listened to or something. It was like a year or two ago about some guy who was DMing, and they brought some chick came into the group and like, hey, we want to play too. And it turned out she was an activist. And so they all sit down to play, and he's like, okay, there's a lich coming gonna attack the town. It's gonna be here in a few days, and you come here to warn them and help them prepare. And this chick kind of took over about, well, what's the political structure of this town? And ended up doing some activist rant and got the whole party going through and spreading propaganda to the town and pushing political agendas in the town. So the DM went with it. He just kept going with it. And he's like, fine. And by the end, he's like, you now have equal rights. You have this and all this in the town. And she's like, yes. And he goes, and the lich comes and wipes you all out. And she goes, hey, wait, that's not fair. He goes, I told you at the very beginning the lich was coming. You did nothing to prepare.
Yeah.
You got nothing you can do now. You're screwed.
That's the whole point.
Bye.
You got 5 days, You got 5 days a week, whatever. You got to solve things within that time frame. Who cares about the political structure of whatever? Just get things done.
It's like, we came to fight a lich, and you wanted to talk politics. Fine. The lich ended your politics,
Unfortunately, I did have a session that's kind of went along those lines. So this was a couple of years back where it was a simple setup. Just ogres were pretty much like keep holding a town at ransom. They were basically little more than thugs, just kind of extorting the town. Then my players at the time, they ended up turning it into Marxist propaganda, literally reading off prose from Das Kapital and basically fostering a mob riot, which was
why
session got weird. It really did.
Oh, it's just a little on the line, but I'm posting Stormcrows. The first thing I'm going to do as my character is create tampon bombs because I'm too cheap to buy pipes and it can double as a bioweapon.
Oh, God.
Oh, man. I probably just screwed my channel reading that, but it was too damn funny.
666 reason why we're all going to hell.
It was worth it.
Guilty Gearhead says based lich.
Oh, my friends are.
Just need to bully the bullies.
Indeed.
And another thing is what kind of group do you have? I've been in groups where you've got a bunch of good characters and then you've got like one or two evil characters and they're conspiring against each other and all kinds of crazy stuff goes on. And then I've had other groups where one character is lawful and another is chaos. And just watching the dynamic between the two of them is hilarious. Like one specific instance, one character is lawful neutral, and he's like, okay, you need to give the guy his coin purse back because he's the town mayor or whatever. So the chaotic neutral thief dumps out the coin sack, puts 1 copper back in it, and throws the coin sack back at the guy. Well, the mayor wanted his coin purse back. He got his coin purse back. The lawful guy got what he wanted because the mayor got his coin purse back. And the thief got what he wanted. The contents of the coin sack.
Well, everybody should be happy then, right?
Yeah, exactly.